Good morning, St. Petersburg. This is A Cup with Katie and your host, Katie Douglas.
Good morning, I'm Katie Douglas, and today we have an extra special treat. We have the cast and crew from the recent novel-gone movie, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. First up, we have the actress playing Miss Watson, Amanda Sweeney. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Could you start by describing your character a little bit?
Well, Miss Watson, she's very proper. She means well, but she's just trying to teach Huck how to be a gentleman and a good Christian boy. And I don't know if she goes around it the right way, but she tries her best.
And do you identify much with your character? Was it difficult to transform?
It wasn't very difficult to get in character, but I'm not exactly like Miss Watson. I'm pretty laid back. I'm definitely not as strict.
And what do you think was the most admirable part of Miss Watson?
I think the most admirable thing in Miss Watson is that she's really trying to make Huck a gentleman. She's trying to make him a good citizen so he can function in society.
And what about the worst?
The worst is she's very snappy.
Snappy?
Yeah, she doesn't seem to want to give Huck a break.
And do you think there was a turning point or a major scene for your character?
I don't think she really turned around. I think she just kind of stuck with the same thing. She tried to make Huck mind, but he didn't really get that, and she just didn't really give up on that.
Okay, and we do have a scene from you playing Miss Watson, and you were teaching Huck a lesson. Do you want to describe the scene for us?
Well, the lesson is about Moses, and I'm trying to teach Huck about just basically just Bible stories, and we start with Moses, and he doesn't quite understand that it is a Bible story, and so it's not happening right now, and he's just trying to get what Miss Watson's point is.
All right, well, let's take a look.
Okay, Huckleberry, sit up straight, be quiet. I'm going to talk to you about Moses in the Bible. And then Moses put his staff into... Huckleberry, sit up straight. He put his staff into the water and got... Huckleberry, stop squirming. Put his staff into the water, and God divided the waters, and all the people crossed on dry land. What do you think about the story, Huckleberry?
It's kind of cool.
What do you think about Moses?
Cool guy. I'll meet him someday. Yeah, you know, might not be his wife, but
You're not gonna meet Moses. He died a long time ago. This story happened a really long time ago.
yeah, I figured that way.
All right, well, that was good. I could tell the strict personality of your character. So thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and up next, we have the protagonist of the novel, and it is played by Robert Parks, and he plays the character of Huckleberry Finn. So welcome, Robert.
Yeah.
All right, so you play Huck Finn. Can you describe your character for us?
Basically, uncivilized little kid who doesn't know much about the world around him other than his what he's had around him, and just crazy.
And do you identify very much with your character?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of haven't known much outside of this, outside what I've been through. You know, I've more better than he is, head-wise. Still kind of limited, you know, what views.
Are you a pretty practical thinker like Huck is?
Yes.
Very practical?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think is the most admirable characteristic of Huck?
Oh, and then thinking things through, kind of say he doesn't want, you know, he kind of thinks out, just like, well, should we do this or not, or it kind of helps everything stay rational.
And what about his worst characteristic?
Like, you know, stealing,
Not very good morals?
not morals or not good at all, no.
And what about a turning point for Huck? Does he have a major scene in the novel?
Yeah, like basically when he helped him Jim out, you know, it kind of helps him out, see more around him. Basically made him grow a lot.
And your character does grow a lot throughout the whole movie, but here we have a clip from very early on in the movie, and it's about a gang of robbers. Do you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to do some A-Rap stealing stuff, and I was like, we'll do it, whatever. They're saying it was like, I was like, dude, it'll be A-Rap stuff, not donuts or whatever it is, you know?
All right, well, let's take a look at that scene and get a closer look.
Okay, basketball. That was no Arabs, huh?
It was too. It was a huge crowd of Arabs and Spaniards.
Really?
Yeah.
You got tunnels in.
No, it was. You saw them. You just saw them. They're enchanted, like in Don Quixote. Don't you read books?
Yeah, but not your kind.
It really was. You have to trust me.
Sometimes I don't know what to trust, you or me.
All right, from that scene I can tell that you like to question Tom's authority. But thanks for being with us here today, Robert.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next up we have the actor who plays Jim, Tyler Ganus. All right. Thanks for being with us here today, Tyler.
Thank you for having me.
Could you start by describing the character of Jim a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Jim is a very intelligent, practical guy who I like to think of as one of the more adult figures throughout the novel.
Okay. And was it very difficult to transform into the character of Jim?
I would like to say no, but that's just because Jim is a very intelligent character throughout the novel. But at times, the seriousness of the role is a little outside of the box of what I'm used to, you doing. But it was a fun challenge.
And what do you think the most admirable quality of Jim is?
Definitely his selflessness, what he is willing to do for his family, and also in the novel, it talks about what he was willing to do for Tom and potentially giving up his freedom for Tom to make sure that Tom would be better.
And what about his worst?
His worst is his superstition. You'll see oftentimes that it tends to hold him back in the novel, and instead of furthering what he really needs to do.
And is there a turning point or a main scene that you see Jim in?
I see Jim as a pretty just standard throughout the entire book. He's just the same until, I would say about towards the end, when I was referring to earlier, the scene where he stayed with Tom. I say when he stayed with Tom, that really speaks on his character and what type of person Jim truly is.
All right, and we have a scene here for you as well, and it takes place between Jim and Huck on a raft. So can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that is like you said, a scene with Huck and I, and we were having a little bit of an exchange of words of whether or not French people spoke English or French, and Jim wasn't quite understanding that French people spoke another language because he just assumed that everyone spoke English. So with him not having that knowledge, we kind of got into it a little bit.
All right, well, let's take another glance at this nice discussion.
How about those people the last time? They kind of talked funny, didn't they?
Yeah, they were French, because they spoke French.
French. What are you talking about? They spoke English.
Yeah, they did.
Everyone speaks English.
No, man, they don't speak English. We speak English. They didn't. They speak French.
No, they're just called French people. They don't French.
Dude, they actually speak English. I mean, cats and dogs even speak different languages. Even, there's different dialects and all that, Jeez, man. You don't just call them French people.
Don't speak French. French.
All right, that was a very interesting scene on that raft. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
All right, up next we have the character of Tom Sawyer, played by Shari Stadelmayer. Welcome, Shari.
Thank you. Thanks for having all of us here.
All right, could you describe the character of Tom?
Tom is, I think a lot of his reputation kind of comes along with the prequel from the first book, and it's kind of brought into the second book because the cast is, or the audience is kind of already familiar with the way that he is. So he's just kind of the ringleader of the group, and everyone kind of looks to him for guidance in that way.
And was it very hard for you to transition into this character of Tom?
It was, yes, definitely. We're very different, but I think that's part of what made it fun, being able to play such a different character that you get to kind of take on a different persona. So that's always a
interesting experience, definitely.
And what about his most admirable characteristic?
I think probably his imagination is his most admirable thing. He definitely thinks outside the box, and sometimes almost to a fault, but it's definitely one of his positive qualities.
Okay, and you touched on this a little bit, but what else do you think is his worst quality or a bad quality of Tom?
With that imagination, he can sometimes get a little overly controlling, and that sometimes gets the best of him in that way, so, yeah.
And did you see your character grow at all throughout the film, or was there a turning point at all for Tom?
There really wasn't a big turning point for his character, just because he's so stubborn and set in his ways that there really wasn't anyone that was going to like change him in that way. So.
All right, and it sounds like we have a pretty classic Tom clip between Tom and Huck. So do you have anything to add about the clip?
Like you said, this is between Tom and Huck, and so this is just one instance where Tom is trying to kind of bring Huck into the mischief that he enjoys so much in playing a little prank on Jim. So,
all right,
yeah.
Well, let's take a look at that clip.
Yeah.
Hey, what's that noise out there? I hear y'all. I ain't leaving until I figure out what that noise came from.
Let's tie him up. Okay, he's asleep.
Thanks for being with us here today and sharing all these fabulous clips with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
And that's all we have for today. And be sure to catch the release of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in summer 2013.
And that was another great episode of A Cup of Katie. Stay tuned next week for a special preview of A Lesson Before Dying.